It's like I'm walking on sunshine.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is DoomCast number 2424. It's the 15th day of January 2014. My name is Doug Owen, and our co-host tonight, as always, is Charlie McGrath of WideAwakeNews.com and our newly renovated, updated, and interactive website, DoomCast.com. You can check it out. Still kind of under construction.
No, it ain't.
Well, I mean, we don't have. It's not complete, but I guess really, what is? What's up, Charlie McGrath?
It's evolving. It's evolving.
It's a living document.
It is. But if you're there right now, you can listen to the program.
Mm-hmm.
If you're at DoomCast.com right now, you can be in the chat room, DoomCast.com. It is the same chat room that's at Wide Awake News, and you can see we can change the header on it. It's Wide Awake News /Doomcast. And you get all the archives there. You can contact us there. You can support the program there. There's a few things we're going to add as far as feeds and some links and stuff, but it's there, man. It's ready.
Yeah,
it's ready.
It looks good. It does. Doomcast.com. You can follow us on Twitter at Doomcast Show or at Wide Awake News or at BLN Radio. You can find all of that at Doomcast.com in the very near future.
And I want to thank Bonnie. I want to thank Bonnie, who worked on all that and put it all together for us for absolutely free, because she's awesome. And so
there you go.
Yep. And I also want to thank, of course, Before It's News for putting us out there, and then Max Salvo for putting us up there on the shtfplan.com, beforeitsnews.com. Thank you, boys, for rebroadcasting the Doomcast. We greatly appreciate that.
Indeed. You get a Freedom Eagle as well. All right.
You're going to get the hate mail rolling already, aren't you?
we have some to look through.
I know. I'm trying
tonight
to find. I had a really, really hateful Doug Owen message, and
while you look for that, I've got a Boguslowski update. Have you been keeping up with Boguslowski?
Boguslowski. Wait. Let's refresh. Let's refresh everybody's memory. Boguslowski is the top secret level intelligence. He was in the intelligence units in the military. He was a groundskeeper at his current position, I believe. But he was found with 50 plus bombs, IEDs, in his vehicle.
83 now. The new count, new numbers.
So,
yes.
83. Plus a military grade, of course, military grade assault weapons. And he was pulled over. And he's kind of been out of the news pretty much altogether. But it is the most fantastical story, including the name Boguslowski or whatever. Bogus is the only thing you need to hear.
It's the best name next to CIA and CIA, the shooter at the LAX.
Yeah, that's right. CIA and CIA. Yeah.
Scene where the ketchup and the doll was left, and just the ridiculousness of it all. But so Boguslowski, he's one of these guys that you would think would be your archetype boogeyman. He had a plan to possibly create a lot of bloodshed via terrorism. And none of these memes, talking points, or media interest have entered into the equation when it comes to this story. I did see one story from the dispatch.com. I was going to play the audio, but basically I could made it quicker. We know that he was found with these explosives. He was speeding, pulled over, and asked if he had a gun. And he actually had a gun in his lap, which, that always leads you to probably a little, the police having probable cause. And they found these explosives. So they show pictures of the explosives and the wires, and I highly encourage anyone out there to, check it out for yourself. But they show the wires. Interestingly enough, he's got these twisted wires. They look like telephone wires, but no wire nuts, crimp caps, any kind of connector for these just pieces of wire. So they have this det wire, but it looks very cheap. It looks fake. It doesn't look like it could work at all.
Now let's make it clear, just so if somebody's like, well, what the hell does Doug Owen know about this? That's what you do, right? I mean, that's your deal. You're an electrician type guy.
I am an electrician type guy. Yeah. I don't build explosives,
so when you see,
but
well, so what? You still, I mean, electricity is electricity, right? I mean,
yeah.
when you see a bunch of wire together, you're looking for the things that put this wire together, wire nuts and whatever the case may be.
Right. Yeah. You need all the connectors.
The flag with.
Sure, to have anything that's actually workable, to have a device that you can actually trigger You have to have these things. So
Yeah.
they look fake. It doesn't look real at all. But the media's reaction, I think, has been the most interesting. There's no talk of terrorism. There's no fear or hype. Okay, so
No.
no one cares about his online history. Nobody cares about his political affiliation.
Yeah, what's up with that, Doug Owen?
Uh,
This
well,
is not going. This isn't going the
And-
way
and-
of the usual.
No,
why?
no. It will. There's some really, really hard questions that have to be asked, and even the compromised, cavalier approach the mainstream media takes to reporting on such sensitive issues, you have to ask, how did he get blueprints for a Navy SEAL training facility? Okay,
Yep.
how did that happen? Okay, it's highly unlikely for a building. A top secret facility like this to just have prints out somewhere where, I mean, when you build these kind of buildings, and I've worked for the Corps of Engineers in the late 90s and early 2000s, and you only get tiny sections and portions of a blueprint. It's
Yeah.
very hard to actually get a Mylar set of prints for any kind of military installation post, World War II. So that's highly suspect. But how did he get it? What was his obvious motive? And the fact that he is in a reconnaissance unit, he's an intelligence analyst, and he had a top secret clearance, and that he traveled all over the U.S. Over, I think, 20 years. He was in the National Guard in 12 different states from let's see, high school on, including Ohio. It goes on. I mean, you start wondering, okay, what was this guy doing? Traveling, looking through. He's a reconnaissance intelligence analyst. So this story is being deep sixed. And the guy himself is really weird looking. I mean, somebody's personal appearance usually shouldn't be a talking point for the show, because I'm trying to make a compelling case as to why this story
Yeah, all that
stakes the
kind of
high
fell.
up. But-
All that awesome, questioning of the situation and analyzing the situation.
He's weird,
Doug,
man.
It kind of fell apart and he's really goofy looking.
Honestly, I was looking at an article. And
He is goofy looking. There's no two ways about it.
It's true, though. What you're to your point, I was reading an article on Mercola.com about actually GMO foods, and one of the symptoms is not praying enough. The writer obviously injecting a little of his own, biblical prophecy into the article, which it's not a deal breaker for me, but it's a deal breaker for those that you try to say, well, look, here's some alternative medicine and some other information that is really valuable and counters, the pharmaceutical industrial complex, and then it's, faith healing. You're like, oh, sorry for the faith healing thing. If somebody who, already is, I think, in the fold or of the fold, then, then it's just, if you have a good relationship with your maker, it might be better for you physically. And quite honestly, it probably is. But, when you, you kind of divert and throw other things in there and a little bit of your own, panache,
Yeah.
it sometimes loses that
kinda
analytic aspect to it. But
It kind of gets a little crunchy, doesn't it?
it gets a little crunchy.
Little crunchy.
Well, Boguslowski, his name, and
The way he looks and the situation. Now, Doug Owen, correct me if I'm wrong. First of all, he's being held on $1 million bond, right?
yes,
But he's 43. His current position he's not an active member of an intelligence unit, right?
No.
He was working at the post as a groundskeeper, if I'm not mistaken.
yes, he was working at the post
right, so
as a National Guard reservist,
All right,
right?
as somebody who studies stories all the time, you and I both, and we've seen countless FBI / Joint Terrorism Task Force setups, right, and covered them and talked about them over the last several years. What is going on with this story? It doesn't go anywhere. I mean, was it like the ultimate setup, and it was just like so outrageously over the top that they just stepped away from it? Or is this, do you think this is legitimate? This guy's just a wacko, and he's got equipment to make bombs, and They don't want the people to know that a 43-year-old goofy-looking guy had a top secret clearance, worked in intelligence, and now still has access to the Navy SEALs because of the virtue he's a veteran. He's working on base. I mean, so what's your take of all this?
All right. Well, if he's working as a guy in the training center as a groundskeeper, he probably found those prints somewhere, and they're probably just laying on a on a in one of those storage closets, electrical closets, something like that. I'm sure.
As groundskeeper, it wouldn't be. I mean, in bigger facilities, it's not hospitals or those kind of big facilities where you're going to have a crew of people to maintain it. It would not be unusual to have a set of prints on it.
Maybe not. Yeah, but the fact that everything that we're seeing is exactly counter to the fake, or at least in my opinion, more than likely fake false flag terror events that we've seen in the past. He just doesn't fit the MO. I think that this guy actually may have been looking to actually harm the U.S.
He's the real deal.
I think he's the real deal. I think that he probably is. But his name, I don't know. I can't really get past it. That's why I'm following the story, because I do find it kind of enigmatic, because it seems like it should be a story. The fact that it isn't leads me to believe that this may be genuine.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, isn't it hard to be
or not
cynical?
U.S. sponsored necessarily. That might be the other reason that they are trying to deep six this, and that is because it might be state sponsored but not U.S. sponsored.
Ooh, you just went geopolitical on us.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's happening from Volgograd to the U.S. I mean, maybe this guy is in the employ of the Russians, maybe Mossad. I mean, there's other intelligence agencies. This could have been an inside job, outside funding,
an inside job.
I mean, there's a lot of people in the Middle East that feel. I mean, this is all conjecture, of course, but feel pretty slighted by the U.S. Saudi Arabians.
And you know what they're going to feel slighted by next is the money that they would have paid, or the money that they put out for Boguslowski, who was stupid enough to get pulled over with 80 bombs and an AK-47 or whatever the heck he had in his rig, and the whole plan was foiled. It definitely.
I think it's a joke. I think it's messaging, and I think that the reason his name's Boguslowski is because he's from Central Casting. Quite honestly.
That's what it feels like to me, but it doesn't. I mean, it is too much of a perfect storm setup for the false flag community. People like us looking for the CIA and CIA type things. This is just blaring. It's like a bullhorn, right? It's screaming false flag. It's screaming setup. And I kind of agree with you. For that reason, it kind of makes you think, well, maybe this is maybe this is a little bit more organic than we think. Just a happenstance that he's got the goofy face and the goofy name.
Yeah. He fits all of the hallmarks. I mean, every last one of them, from the analyst working intelligence, being an insider. He has bombs. He might have an agenda, but the mainstream media doesn't care about that agenda yet.
Wait a minute.
Terrorism.
I just got something. You said the word analyst, and that just made something pop into my brain here. Yeah, deep thought.
Okay.
Deep thought. All right, analyst, right? Okay, so we're probably at some point going to talk here in the next 50 minutes or so about the budget deal. We're probably going to talk a little bit about how the intelligence community, the CIA, DIA, NSA, NGA, NRO, AFISRA, the INSCOM, the MCIA, the ONI, OICI, the INA, the CGI, the FBI/NSA, DEA-ONSI, how these 16 intelligence apparatus are now squarely in the crosshairs due to due to an analyst, Snowden, coming out and releasing information. And we know now, because of Edward Snowden, that the black budgets for these 16 alphabet intelligence agencies is over $53 billion last year. So we have, cha-ching indeed, we have Congress both sides of the aisle say, well, maybe it's time we get a little bit of daylight on these black budgets. This is being tied into a deal for the $1.1 trillion budget coming up, but it can be all blamed on or given credit to, as I like to say, a hero, somebody who has got the courage and the guts to know that something wrong and expose it, as the way Edward Snowden did. He was somewhat in that mold of analyst. So maybe it's maybe we look at Boguslowski and we see this smear campaign on analysts in general, or people in the intelligence or peripheral intelligence employees in general. I know it's a long shot, but I could see that happen.
No, I think that it's better than probable. I mean, it's more than plausible. It's even probable. Yeah. If you look at the law, the new renovated law to rein in the intelligence agencies, yeah. Barack Obama basically, not that I put all the blame on him, but the community basically. Well, he's easy to blame, and he definitely deserves his fair share for sure. But it's Congress, and well, let's just call the 535 of them all complicit in all of this.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean that's beyond the 1%. That is the 1/100th of a percent of the political elite that do make most of the decisions and push the legislation that is corporate sponsored down our throats.
That's right.
But I think quite obviously,
it just seems that there's always. It seems that if there is a person or a group or an affiliation that is standing up for principles that they believe in, and in my case, or in our case, I should say, it would be constitutional republic, true freedom, true free markets. It seems that as soon as there's some traction by that group individual or by that even thought process, then it is immediately attacked. And there's example after example of this. I mean, we could look at, Ron Paul supporters. They come out and they're out there starting to grow in numbers and talk audit the Fed, talk constitutional currency. What happens? They get pigeonholed and MIAC reported and everything else into a place that they're nothing but tinfoil hat wearing lunatics. The same thing happens with the Tea Party. It gets out and it's getting momentum, take our country back. Again, the free markets and get corruption out of Wall Street, Washington, D.C. What happens? The right wing of the Republican Party is now the Tea Party. Wasn't what it started out to be, but it's co-opted and it turned into something completely different. So it isn't a surprise when we see something like Americans who truly love America, who see this injustice going on inside the intelligence community, go out and they spread the truth. Of course, that free-thinking, freedom-loving perspective has to be denigrated. So we will see, even if this Boguslowski has nothing to do with that, I'm completely off track with that, we will see a continued attack on the notion that people should speak up when they see wrong. We will see it continue to be called patriotism when you shut up when you know something illegal is being done or unconstitutional is being done. I mean, that is the playbook. Am I wrong on that, Doug Owen?
Maybe. Okay. Probably not, though. I agree with most of that, I think that, what it really comes down to is that the whole paradigm is changing, and whether Edward Snowden is part of a narrative or if he really is a whistleblower, if he's organic, I think a lot of us have questions. I obviously do. A lot of questions about what the grander implications in all of this will be, and we're already seeing you mentioned blame. The economy's taking blame. They're talking about the tech sector losing billions of dollars because of what has been released just today. If you believe it, and I don't know that I do, that they're saying that the NSA has the ability to air gap to be able to transceive information into computers without even having to connect cords. They can just use this huge air gap, which is some technology that blows people's minds when you start thinking about, okay, is this real? Is it practical? Do they really have this technology? Have they refined it? I mean, a lot of people want to believe, I'd like to believe that they know everything and they have this super, alien technology, but maybe not. And maybe this is part of a grander divide. And that's what's happening. There is a lot of geopolitical implications from all of this. and the dissemination of that information and how it's being used. When you look at, what's his name? The PayPal guy, Omidyar.
.com.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of Kim.com.
Kim.com. He's got a new political party.
He does.
He does. Have you? Anyway, I mean, I'm just saying that there's definitely a deeper context that's happening there, and people that just take all of this, especially because it's such a media theatric show, at face value, I think you're not naive, but you should definitely be weary of how this is playing out and how it's being used as a political tool. The CIA looks better by the moment as the NSA takes the majority of the heat. When you look at the budgets and you look at these obvious messages, I think through these terrorist events, there seems, at least in my opinion, to be more and more patterns. And this, I think, maybe a string of pearls that lead to this ongoing shift in geopolitical, political terms. With Russia, and especially the U.S., what's happening in Syria, in the Middle East.
No doubt about it. Let me ask you this right now. You're recording, of course. You're the technical dude over there with all the equipment. Is our signal fine? Because I just got a message from Karen, who was listening live to the Doomcast, saying it's dropping in and out. What can you tell me on that, Doug Owen?
I don't know. I do see the audio. It looks like it disconnected. Yeah, let me hit that again. We'll try. Oh, yeah, I guess we did have a bump.
Bump.
Well, thanks, Karen.
Thanks, Karen Quinn. She's Karen Quinn Tostado, of course, host of on Wide Awake News Radio, on hiatus for the moment. But she's supporting us by listening in. So thank you, Karen.
Yeah, we were off for 3 minutes. We had a network error that occurred. So
is the recording gone completely, or will it be up later?
Okay,
so if you're listening live right now and you missed that last 3 minutes, which was riveting, it was probably the best 3 minutes of Doug Owen's life, I'm pretty sure. You're going to want to recapture that.
Yeah, you're definitely going to want to go to the podcast.
Yes. It was reminiscent to me of the Eisenhower speech on the military-industrial complex. That's how riveting that last 3 minutes was.
I don't know about that, but I think there's a lot of people that are playing different angles, and there's a lot of different intelligence agencies that are going through.
I think they love
it.
I think they love it. I think the CIA looks at the NSA and says, yeah, good luck, guys. Or the FBI, they want to drop the law enforcement and just get into the old intelligence business, period. So they're probably loving it. But I mean, I think most people don't realize that we have so much intelligence apparatus out there.
Right.
It's staggering. It's staggering the number of forces or the number of entities that reside under that 8-pointed star, which is the intelligence community. But 53 billion is the estimated black budget for last year. That's crazy, Doug Owen. That's insane.
Maybe. I don't know. It didn't seem to be that much. I mean, dollar doesn't get you that far in the intelligence world. Buying a lot of stuff, man. A lot of money. A lot of money there.
I stand corrected. 53 billion, chump change. But pretty soon, that could add up to some real money.
Well, I think so. I really do. I mean, just this week, I want to segue here. Because, one of the things that I think is an ongoing conspiracy theory is that the government runs the drugs in the U.S. They run the cartels and that they are working with drug dealers. And they basically are the drug dealers of the world. Well, there's been a lot of new revelations, and even the Business Insider, Time Magazine, and others have noted this week, and you may have heard about this, that the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Agency, was working with the most notorious drug cartel in history, I would say, the Sinaloa drug cartel, and they allowed them to have complete impunity. They allowed them to smuggle billions of dollars worth of drugs into the United States of America. They allowed the banks that laundered this money, like HSBC and Wells Fargo, to go off the hook because they had no knowledge. They just paid billions of dollars for their wrongdoing, and no one goes to jail. But all of this, I mean, this is I would say, the biggest, smoking gun in how terror politics and narco trafficking, narco terrorism is being spearheaded by the U.S. government. And when you look at the death toll that exceeds the one in our other failed narco drug war that's happening right now in Afghanistan, it's actually more bloody. And not only are we taking the money and using that to fund and flood Mexican markets and South American markets and to destabilize countries that are friendly to, Russia and others in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization that are working with China and the like. But this admission is so huge because not only that, they're also giving guns to the tunes of tens of thousands of weapons. So not only did they have the coke, the money, they've got the blood, and they gave the cartels the weapons. So, I mean, we can't even really fathom. And this isn't, 50 years ago. This isn't genocide that happened in the 80s in South America during Iran-Contra. I mean, this is happening right now, just a few hundred miles from where I sit. And the media has been pretty silent on it, but it's really riveting stuff to see this. And all of it's being, I think, quite whitewashed by Chris Christie, Bridgegate, that scandal, what happened to the Superstorm Sandy money. And yeah, that's real criminality. It's pretty typical of Jersey politics, not something that's atypical. So I don't know what how big a story that is, but this blows Fast and Furious. I think this blows Benghazi completely out of the water, and it proves that the war on drugs and the militarization of this country to protect our children from drugs and drug dealers is a complete farce.
Could not add to or take away anything of what you just said. Except for maybe it's time for people to start really considering the powers that be, the control apparatus as one and the same. So when you talk about banks, when you talk about government, when you talk about drug cartels, you just think of it all as one mafia, because that's what it is. It isn't a separation about just HSBC or these other institutions that are laundering drug money. It's with the tipping of the hat and the wink of the eye of government. It's also, supporting these cartels and murder and killing. It is absolutely one and the same. And for you not to see that at this point in time, especially with admissions like this, is you're really just telling yourself that the sun will come up tomorrow and everything's going to be fine because you're on your way to Oz. And this is the world that we live in: corrupt, colluded, cheating, lying, stealing at every turn. As long as they can turn a camera on and say they're doing it for your behalf, they're going to keep this game rolling. And you're right there in the thick of things. But I'm between you and I is a little state called Colorado, and I find it absolutely fascinating, right? And nobody's really catching on. Well, maybe some are, but I'm sure you have. Catching on to this little notion.
What does that mean, Charlie McGrath?
Well, it means the banks in Colorado, there's some banks in Colorado that don't want to take marijuana money, because now in Colorado, if you're 21 years old, you can buy an ounce of marijuana and have it in your possession. Myself, I don't partake, but I think everybody has the right to do what they want, and I think they're completely free to determine their own destiny in the state of Colorado. But these banks are standing up to this insanity, to this affront to civilization inside of Colorado.
Uh-huh.
So the banks don't want to take the money, if it's a good PR spin.
The bank. Wait, say that again, Charlie. I don't think some of the listeners can really fathom that or wrap their minds around what you're saying.
The banks in Colorado don't want to take marijuana money because it's they feel that it's corrupt and it's not sending the right message. However, I personally believe it's more lucrative for them to take the marijuana money as long as it's coming through a cartel, because they make a lot more money laundering that dirty money than obeying the law of Colorado, which the people have spoken, making marijuana legal for recreational purposes. So here you have HSBC, and we know these other banks that make billions and billions and billions of dollars laundering drug money that literally is killing people right around the world by the thousands.
Tens of thousands. Over 50,000. They operated this little arrangement between 2000 and 2012. So during that time span, if you look at the violence, and this was to mitigate violence, they're doing this openly. And we talked about this, I think, on the DoomCast, maybe episode 18, how the U.S. government is giving different assets on the ground in Colombia actual GPS targeted boxes where they can plant these so that they will use a tactical strike, probably with a drone, to take out FARC leaders. So we know that this is happening already. That's just one of the many missions. And while everyone's so, I guess, enamored with the fact that the government is looking at everything, or at least telling us that they have the ability to hack into everything, there's some pretty huge, riveting things that are happening that, are getting scant mention. I mean, because this is really a game changer. What can you really add to it when you have this direct involvement in the drug industry? Where does it start and where does it end? And at what point does it, how can you, I don't know. It's so horrendous because so many people in this country, and especially in Mexico, and even to the north, have, felt the violence, the suffering under this huge crime syndicate. And, it is freaking horrifying to me that people don't, get more upset about this. Because think about how many people have, gone to jail. I mean, when you talk about the 5 million plus people that are incarcerated, I mean, we're paying for it in so many ways, not just, ones and zeros, but societally.
Lots. Sorry, I'm talking to Karen. I wasn't paying attention to you.
Oh,
Karen still having problems here. No, I was listening to you. Doug, I take that back. I don't want to hurt your feelings. Some people said I'm mean to you on the program.
Something Wong.
What is Karen talking about over there?
She can't hear you. It's all static, she said.
It's all static.
It's all static. I don't know what's going on with the dealio, but the dealio ain't dealing. But you're right. You talked about the number of people imprisoned in this country and how many of them are related to just specifically even just marijuana. I mean, it is a racket. It's a money-making racket, and there's more money doing it illegally than there is legally. So even though I guess the tax in Colorado is really steep, I think it's like 30% on purchases of marijuana. But look, we could pump legally, right? You can go buy Unisom, you could buy NyQuil, you could buy beer, you could buy so many things to alter your mood and alter your condition and make you an unsafe person behind the wheel of a car or whatever, behind a firearm, whatever the case may be. The notion that somehow marijuana and in Colorado this is a big shocker and these banks don't want to deal with that money. Come on, man. This is PR all the way. I think it's PR on one end and bottom line on the other, because like I said, I think there's a lot more money being made taking the dirty stinky money and making it clean for these cartels.
I think it's also the checkmate, or at least the state
checkmate
trying to stop these kind of sales, because it's one thing to have the states say this is legal, but the federal government says it's not legal, and so they could sue or possibly go after these banks for illegal wire transfers across state lines. So, I'm not a lawyer, but I could see where banks would say, well, we're being used as a pawn in this power grab between the states that rightfully have the power to regulate and to do whatever they like.
Then the people of Colorado should eliminate those banks from doing business within their state.
Bitcoin,
Bitcoin, baby.
That's where you're going to find, a lot more people.
Bitcoin.
Well, what are they going to do? There
I don't know.
you go.
If
the state government won't take your money, I don't know. Buy gold coins.
What are Bitcoins trading at these days? 10,000?
No, 8 something.
Oh, it's falling through the floor. Get out. Sell now, Doug Owen.
Oh, I know.
She's crashing through the bottom.
Well, I think that if you bought any, at the beginning of 2013, what were they? $10, $20? So
yeah,
I think you're still doing okay.
Yeah.
If you bought a silver coin for $25, I wouldn't sell it yet.
Well, maybe. Nah, I'm with you. Most of my silver is around $8 or $9. Although I do have some Gabe Belton cool silver here that I'm certainly upside down on. But it's something I don't worry about. I don't worry about it. It's gonna eventually
decouple.
Yeah, I think so. And you know what? There is a lot of economic data that's come out again.
Jim Beam is bought by the Japanese. Death to America. That's it. It's done. It's 2014.
It's
Doom.
over. It is doomed. It is
J.C.
doomed.
Penney getting rid of 2,300 jobs, 33 stores. Magic number right there, 33.
3322. It's that's some kind of conspiracy number, right?
Budweiser, they've already left. Now all we have left is pot. That crazy Japanese or the Chinese businessman. Did you hear about the guy that wanted to buy the New York Times? Did you see his business card? It's ridiculous. It's like he's the master of everything. He's a business consultant, moral counselor. It just, yeah. He
Life
has,
coach.
Yeah. Winter Olympics, ice skating coach. Just goes on. But, you know, that's what's funny because that's what I think a lot of people, even people in my own circles, look at as a metric for what's happening in the stock market or what's happening in this country. Man, Jim Beam, Kentucky whiskey, not even American company, Budweiser. They're a bunch of freaky deaky Dutch. What's going on here? And that is where we're at with the economy. $1.1 trillion budget. That seems reasonable. Charlie McGrath, penis pumps for everyone. It's going to be cool, man.
When you say 1.1 trillion,
it's no big deal. It's not a lot of money. You know, Republicans used to get upset when you said trillions. Now, this is okay.
Trillions is the new billions. That's what you need to know. And when you talk about a 1.1 trillion, the new billions budget, the $53 billion black budget doesn't sound so horrible, does it?
No, that's pennies in the big budget right there, man.
It's pennies.
So we had to give more money to Israel, to the military, to the black budgets, lots of money. But yeah, Egypt, the Middle East in general, lots of
But
money.
there's 1.3 million Americans out there right now that, I'm sorry, Egypt needed it, Israel needed it, the black budget needed it, the 16 intelligence agencies needed that money. But you 1.3 million that are on long-term unemployment benefit, screw you, because you don't need the money. Not as much as Israel and Egypt and the 16 agencies that snoop into everything that you do.
Well, you know, I mean, let's be honest. If we had a little Wall Street oversight, we might actually have maybe a little bit better situation in this country economically. If it wasn't just rear naked capitalism, you know, exploitationism or kleptocracy, whatever you want to call it.
I like I like the kleptocracy, but it is. I try to say it just like you, kleptocracy. I can't. You're too good. But we do have Wall Street oversight. Wall Street oversees every bit of legislation that goes through Washington D.C. So there's tons of Wall Street oversight. It's just going the wrong way, Doug Owen.
Well, you know what? You know why they call it Wall Street, right?
Tell me. Break it down.
Wall Street. There used to be a huge wall there because when they would bring all the slaves to the island, when they'd bring them to New York, they would have a big auction. Well, you know, some of these people that used to, roam free decided, man, I don't like this place at all. I'm going to try to run. That's why they built the wall. That's why it's Wall Street. So today it's very metaphoric because now they have debt slaves and the walls are being torn down between us and the robber barons, and they're being resurrected for the debt serfs that can't get out of, paying their fair share. They can't bankrupt out of the cronyism and the, bad decisions that they have made. So they're not too big to fail. But we've institutionalized, commodified, and sold the failures of Goldman Sachs and others. So I think that when somebody told me that, I was like, that makes a lot of sense. So the slave owners of yesteryear were on Wall Street, and they are still there today.
Working hard to keep their status quo.
You know what? Wasn't the New York Stock Exchange sold to some other country, too, while we're on that tangent? Wasn't it? I think that...
I think you're thinking NASDAQ, aren't you?
Yeah, NASDAQ. That's what it was. NASDAQ was sold. I mean, we don't even have NASDAQ anymore. Man.
Well, here's the deal. You know what? If you put your faith as a metric, the markets, then you are just, you're so 2005, and it's time to realize that it just doesn't exist anymore. I mean, for the first time ever a month ago, what did we fall under for the first time ever since they've been recording this? And this is since the depression of the 30s. We fall under 7,000 regional private banks, right? These are banks that are not considered too big to fail because we've consolidated those banks. Since 1939 to now, there's never been less than 7,000, right? Our population was what in 1939? Like 100,000 people. I'm grossly under exaggerating there, but we've seen a complete destruction of free markets with the entrepreneurial architecture that built the country. A lot of people think it certainly the
Chinese slaves, Irish slaves, black
yes,
slaves.
that's where I was going. Slaves.
People are like, oh yes, it was the innovators and the pioneers of yesteryear. I'm like, didn't they build those train tracks with slaves? No. Yeah, and you go back to maybe the Panama Canal that was built with slaves. So,
yeah.
I mean,
I don't know.
It depends on how you like to romanticize history, my friends. It depends on who you were, what color you were, how much money you had, who your wife was, your affluence in the time, as to whether you would romanticize it.
You can make that eloquently make that argument, but you can't hide the fact that it just about in every aspect, right? Pick a segment, be it entertainment or news, for example.
Sure.
Right. Where at a time in this country in the 80s, even a shockingly small number of 50 or 60 big corporations controlled the majority of the news disseminated. That was a small number, but at least that news or that journalism that segment,
Publishing.
right? But listen, at least
journalism.
it was somewhat spread out. To now, you fast forward to this current day and age, you have a half a dozen, 5 or 6 corporations, mega corporations that control the news. So you have upward integration of intelligence, right? In the form of
that's
media.
all changing. I mean, yeah, that's
No, it
true
isn't
now.
changing.
But
Listen, no, it isn't changing. It's on. Look, I could keep going. Political power. It used to be spread out to the people through the states, and then it became more and more consolidated to the point now where it's all pinnacled to presidents and their executive orders. So upward integration of power.
I think it's the exact opposite. I think that we do have the redistribution of power through technology. I think that we have seen. I think
how.
Well,
What's an example?
I'll give you an example. This show, blacklistinnews.com, your website. You go to Sean Hannity's website. Look at his Alexa ranking. Look at Bill O'Reilly. Look how many people that are on terrestrial radio have following them on Twitter.
I'm not saying people have lost their ability to open their mouth and noise to come out. I'm not saying that. I'm saying in the respect of actual power, with the respect of actual political power, economic power, or the ability to disseminate information, even though you have a vast array of ways to communicate, the consolidation of power in many forms has been nonstop in the hands of fewer and fewer over the last century. And so
from the old standpoint, I mean, pre-internet, pre-globalization, I think that's what's happened is that now, because you have finite resources, we have just a growing population, you have more stakeholders across the globe. Case in point, interest in Africa, interest in rare earths, those resources. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not going to go kill those people, but it makes it to where it's harder. You have more people in the conversation. You have global presence. You have global awareness, political awareness.
Wait a minute.
Let's go back. Let's go back to 50.
At the end of the day, you have Freddie Prince, right?
Yes. Who's Freddie Prince?
Prince Blackwater. They had I call him Freddie.
It's Eric.
Yeah, Eric Prince. Who's vying for the job. I mean, it's funny you brought up Africa because he's
laissez-faire. He's a free market capitalist, and he just has a little bit of a grudge against the Arabs.
Yeah, right. So he's going to work for a Japanese company and head their logistics division while they go in and pilfer raw materials and resources from Africa. Yeah. But it goes to my point exactly. Here you have the consolidation of
he's
power.
not going to get the job. I mean, he's going to be too high. They're going to go to a third-rate company. They'll go to Dime Corp or somebody else. Some other mercenary front. No, but my point is that I think that if you look back 50 years ago, even 100 years ago, the amount of information, even 1,000 years ago, that people had was very, very controlled. And yeah, it might have been local. You might have had more of a local spin. You might have even had more, of your good old boy system that you still see that's, ever prevalent today where I live. The land commissioners, the zoning commissioner, and his buddy just happens to buy all of this cheap property that turns out to be, absolute gold. The sweetheart buddy deals. You know what's happening when it's happening. Insider investment.
Right.
I think that's always happened. You're always going to have cronyism, nepotism. But we see it now on a much grander level. And it's a different world. I mean, you mentioned the population. That alone changes everything. Everything. So when you look at the entrepreneurial spirit of yesteryear, yeah, it was entrepreneurial. It's not because the government wouldn't have loved to be oppressive. They didn't have the technology, the ability, or the energy, or the infrastructure to micromanage people.
You make my point. And now we do this technology that you just a few minutes ago gave us all a free voice to talk on our websites and this program and things like that. Even though that's all out there, that technology is, we're talking through it, this form of media right now. It's irrelevant when that same technology is being used in order to amass the power.
No. See,
that's what we have, Doug.
You have free will. See, that's the thing. You can't change anything if you don't know.
I forgot about free will.
We have free will. When you find out that Monsanto is pushing forward with their new GMO wheat, and it's going to be in your kids' Frosted Flakes before you know it. Cheerios, will turn its nose up on it, maybe. But, you get it, Tony the Tiger might not have those same kind of high standards for your Frosted Fruity Flakes. Well, you make a decision, and there's a lot of people that make a bad decision because they don't know. If you do know and you know what's in it, then you can make a better decision. And I think that we see across the board, you talk about the free markets. Yeah, they're manipulated, but there's always that threshold. There's that point where they have to concede. I mean, you look at what's happening in Mexico right now because of the Knights Templar cartel and the takeover of the local government. You have thousands, tens of thousands potentially of individuals starting their own government, starting their own army, even though the federal government says they can't have firearms. They're totally unempowered. They are emasculated by the state. They're like, screw it. We're just not going to take this anymore. We're going to take arms and we're going to take our country back.
La Raza.
Well, yeah. Well, I don't think they're really La Raza. They're just tired of being exploited by the same people that we're spending our money on and arming in Mexico to basically keep this narco terror, the super secret black budgets that aren't even not even on one of Snowden's PowerPoint presentations. The real deal. The real deal. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I mean but I think the important thing is that we have the ability to change. And when more and more people become appalled and they see what's really happening, things do change. Now, they're not going to change the way you or I would like them to. They never have throughout history. But I think,
I kind of like the idea of the Mexicans standing up and saying, I kind of like that little scenario you painted there.
People will. At some point, if the government can't take care of business, if the government cannot take care of the people, you have what you have in Spain right now. You have riots when you have a corrupt elite that have, betrayed the people and they have broken the social contract. All bets are off.
Well, and that's exactly what we do have. There is a betrayal and there is a breaking of the so-called air quote social contract, but it just hasn't filtered down all the way to Main Street yet. But it is inevitably going to, and there's a lot of reasons why. I mean, there's a lot of reasons that we don't see the kind of outrage that we see in a lot of the European countries right now. But we're rapidly heading there. We're rapidly heading to that 30% unemployed for the youth and a continued downward spiral economically. But as long as the world salutes us as the military power that keeps commerce flowing and they keep wanting to accumulate and spend the dollars, there's going to be a little hedge that the American people are going to be benefactor of.
Well, maybe. I don't know if we're going to benefit from it. Ultimately,
Bitcoin. Well, we're benefiting from it right now. I mean, the world is the world, right? And the economic situation inside of Italy and Spain and Ireland and the rest of Europe and Eastern Europe, the economic situation that lead to the downturn that they're experiencing is the exact same one we're in now. We just don't experience it the exact same way because we have the ability to spend all this money paper and get over through social safety nets. And when that comes running out, and we start to see it more like this 1.3 million people that are not going to receive extended benefits, even though the intelligence apparatus gets their payday, we'll start to see more and more decay of our society and more pushback to the point where, there will be some kind of change, and it probably won't be a pretty change, but that's okay because your local law enforcement agency probably has an MRAP ready to go to shock and awe right through your front door to make sure your cable bill's paid.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
So last week we had some pretty contentious people out there that were not thrilled with some of my commentary. And
wait a minute. You mean this week? Last week it was all Doug Owen love.
Okay.
You mean this week's comments, right?
Yeah, this week's comments. Well, that's what I meant by the show.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Week. But yeah.
Yeah. and do you want to read? I mean, Doug, you're
here's one here. Right? It says, my biggest problem with the whole Fukushima issue, this is from Jake, a.k.a. Tuna Melts, is not the amounts of radiation coming our way.
Tuna Melt.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah, you did. See?
It's not lost on me. That's funny.
Yeah, we got some winning listeners out there.
That's witty. Tuna Melt.
Because I know that some is way worse than none, or some is worse than none, right? Any radiation is bad radiation. You don't want to eat it. My problem isn't with the levels on the West Coast because I figured as much was going to happen. My biggest problem with this whole issue is the silence from the authority figure in the U.S. People are not going to listen to any sort of concern until they see it on TV. But we've reached the point where a YouTube video has caused the Californian establishment to declare that, yes, counts are way above average, but no, there's no link to Fukushima. Meanwhile, stories of two-headed whales, melting sea stars, seals, bears, otters, skin lesions, dying birds. And he goes on here and he says, basically, whether it is death from a full meltdown or slow death by seafood, either way, it's not going in the right direction. It's very looming, and I can't agree with him more. It's not. My point is not that it's not a huge issue. Absolutely it is. And I was saying the very first day that they needed to entomb Fukushima, all of this trying to save
you really did get lambasted. And I don't remember, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't remember you belittling the events on the program or I really don't. I don't even, I mean, I'm reading this one. It's even, a little more in Doug Owen's face. And I was reading this. I'm trying to think back. Well, what did Doug say in defense, I guess, of what's happening with Fukushima? I don't remember that.
Well, I mean, maybe my cavalier approach. Somebody said the nonsensical little silly words. That
that was Durka Durka. That was me. That was because I'm I'm infatuated with Team America because I'm American.
Yeah, yeah, and we know that movie stars are more important than war heroes in geopolitics, and that's why the State Department goes to George Clooney rather than maybe General Petraeus or somebody else like that. Yeah.
Can I read my anti-Doug?
Sure, yeah.
And this is from somebody who I know means well because this person has commented.
That's a great way to preface it. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This guy's awesome, Doug, and you're not. Sorry. He's commented on my program. He's in the chat room all the time, and actually, they're quite constructive most of the time. This one just kind of blew me away a little bit because you want feedback? ? I just listened to DoomCast 23, and Doug Owen sounds like quite the airhead. Speaking as a former chemistry and physics teacher, he doesn't know squat about the physical sciences or atomic energy or cold fusion for that matter. Fukushima is the greatest calamity to grace mankind. And then it goes on to talk about why. And that I read that first couple sentences there, and that's when I was like, what the hell did Doug say? did I miss something? And I almost had to go back and re-listen because I don't remember you saying that Fukushima was not a big deal, because that I know that you believe it is. And
No, I don't believe that these radiation readings that this guy had were necessarily from Fukushima. I thought that there was a big credibility gap, and I think that when you look at the amount of radiation, and I mentioned this, that is right off the coast, chemical weapons, sarin gas, to you name it, they've dumped across the west and southern coasts of the U.S., namely Port Arthur, Texas. I can think of just one case where they released all sorts of horrific chemicals into the bay. I mean, they used to get rid of lead paint. The proper way to dispose it was to pour it over the side of a ship during World War II. Yeah, red lead. Look up red lead. You can find the red lead conspiracy, and that's why we had a huge percentage of the population going crazy from lead poisoning, because people were basically out of their minds. So, and you can only imagine all of the stuff that is happening in the ocean. I saw firsthand the U.S. Navy dumping all sorts of chemicals, waste, plastics, crap off the back of ships. They dump oily discharge and sewage at 11 miles out. Okay, and that's the oily discharge means anything that's in the engine room. So you take it's a huge chemical cocktail.
Well,
I've never claimed. Here's the thing, and that's just my opinion, because I just don't think that we have enough information. But not that it's not something that we should be aware of. I'm glad it's being brought to light, but I also think that it's one of these things. I think people, they want more awareness to all the stuff that's happening, like tuna melts here in the ocean, and we're seeing all these things. But I don't think that we can attribute them all to one event, because quite honestly, and it might be the worst event ever, the greatest industrial snafu of human history, and I can't stress enough that I think it's a huge issue. But I don't think that if we blame everything on it, then it takes our attention away from all the other things that are happening in the ocean right now too, that could be attributing to this. And I'm saying that, let's not just all blame every weird thing that we see on Fukushima, or all of the, maybe outrageous radioactive readings on Fukushima, because it might be something that's right underneath the ground. It could be something, you know what I mean? So
I do know what you mean. I completely know what you mean. And it's because, of spending this amount of time in independent media, that what you're saying to me, I understand completely. If you cross somebody, look, I had a lawyer on the program who was representing soldiers or sailors in their class action suit against TEPCO, or at least trying to represent these guys in some kind of legal action against TEPCO. And I don't even remember at what point during the program, but he heard something that was, even questioning the procedure of going ahead and having these servicemen go after TEPCO, and he just lost his frickin' mind. He lost his mind on the air.
Wait, he lost his cool and just got all upset.
Oh, yeah, he freaked out, and it was it wasn't even a misunderstanding. I mean, it was somebody, and
this was on your show?
Yeah, it was on my show. Somebody posed a question about just a general question about going forward this legally.
So, how can you prove that this was not from the exposure from being on a nuclear carrier? Because you're actually on a big nuclear device. Maybe it's leaking nuclear waste.
Some innocuous question. Because
they're going to have to prove that in court, obviously, if they're going to go forward with that. I mean,
well, it's called, you know what, Doug? It's called a conversation. It's called a conversation. You have somebody on, you're talking about whatever impassions them, and you have the whys and what fors. It's just a damn question.
The truth fears no questions.
That's right. Let's get another T-shirt, DoomCast. Here's the deal. And so you cross somebody's idea, or if you don't line up with it 100%. Then all of a sudden, in some cases, you really, really set them to a bad place. And whatever you said about this reading levels on the beach, obviously did a couple of people. They didn't like it. So I don't know what to say to that other than, I know Doug. I've known Doug a long time, and we've talked Fukushima.
I don't work for the
multiple
gas
times.
industry or
No.
the nuclear industry.
If
I'm
you do,
not-
you're holding out on your co-host.
I mean, obviously, your engineers and your scientists that
Sure.
email you will be able to tell you that I am not a peer-reviewed journalist working for the
Peer-reviewed.
Scientific American or anything like that, and I never claimed to be. So
I like the comments even when they're negative, and I'm going to read
I
one
do
now.
too.
It's negative towards me, just to be fair. And this was this Doomcast broadcast. This Doomcast broadcast could be very interesting if you didn't use childish word games like Durka Durka. However, you spell it. However you spell it over. I'm sorry, they're questioning their spell. However you spell it over and over again, along with repetitive slang that doesn't show your full sincerity for this show. Stop playing around with childish word games. And Doug, you shouldn't take any of that to you because I was the one Durka and all over the last program. So I'll take that as I need to grow up a little bit.
Well, I mean, come on now. I think that for the most part, Doomcast, we are talking to people that are already initiated. Okay, you are illuminated. If you're a Doomer, you're listening to this program, you're not the average, I hate to say it, but sheeple out there
Right.
that don't already have a good idea what's happening. So this show,
Go
ahead.
The line from the movie that I repeated ad nauseum apparently is very relevant because that movie itself, Team America. I mean that embodies what I see when I think of this this never-ending war on fill in the blank. But that line from the movie you had played a few Doomcasts ago, and it cracked me up, and I ran with it. So I apologize for my Durka-ing.
I don't like your jerk-off name. I don't like your jerk-off face. I don't like your jerk-off behavior. And I don't like you. Jerk-off.
Indubitably. My name's Charlie McGrath. My website's wideawakenews.com. Doug Owen, blacklistednews.com. You've been listening to Doomcast number 24. Wowzers.
Yeah,
Wowzers.
we're already here.
Enjoy the new Doomcast.com. You can we'll try to figure if we had some technical data there as far as the show broadcasting, but that will be the home base every time we do this broadcast. We're going to try to do it so where you can listen to it live. If not, if you caught part of it and some of it got cut out, look for it later on at blacklistednews.com, wideawakenews.com, the YouTube channel. We'll have it up at multiple places, and of course you can find it at DoomCast.com. Doug Owen, thanks a lot. I appreciate your opinions today.
Yeah, as well. Thanks, man.
Rock on, Doomer. Oh, wait, applause at the end.
There you
That
go.
was adorable. That was adorable.
Doug Owen, you don't know shit, sir. You offend me.
You, my friend, are an asshole.
You suck. Would be cool if we could be a Google. What? Would be cool if this could be a Google Doomcast. Thanks, Craig.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
Maybe a Google Hangout?
I don't-
Maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe.
yo, so we're all live on camera. See, it's that camera aspect.
Ooh, are you on camera? Yeah, you want?
On the camera.
Yeah,
No,
you
I'm
look
not.
like a kitty cat.
I'm a lion. I'm a lion. All
Wow.
right, here's the deal. Wow. I am going to go zombify. What'd you think? I thought it was a good program.
I thought it was great.